In the darkness, between the stars and the hearth fires, between the rustle of grasses and the breath of the earth, an image lives. It is older than all words and more silent than all prophets. Its form intricately twists in the depths of myths, like a trace on sand, like a serpent on the threshold of a dream. This is a dragon, or perhaps a serpent god, a being that has no single form. It is the breath of caves. It is the serpent that coiled into a ring and holds within itself the beginning and the end. Since man began to speak, he began to tell stories, and from the moment he began to fear, he began to create. Thus, the first myths were born, and among them, almost always, alongside the elements, with mountains, waters, and the sky, was he, the serpent, with wings or without, with fire in its mouth, or with a pearl of wisdom in its claws. It filled both fear and reverence. It was simultaneously an enemy and a teacher, a monster and a deity, darkness and light. They feared it, worshipped it, fought with it, and honored it. Why specifically a serpent? Why specifically a dragon? Why again and again, in cultures separated by thousands of kilometers and as many years, does the same image arise? Perhaps it came from the dreams of ancient shamans who saw its twisting body in the clouds of smoke. Or perhaps it is the earth itself speaking to us through the archetype. Because the serpent lies on the border, between up and down, between life and death, it glides, leaving no traces. It sheds its skin and is reborn. It can be poisonous and deadly, or it can be sacred and healing. When man saw lightning, he said, "This is the serpent of the sky." When the ocean raged, it was the serpent of the depths. When the grass rustled underfoot, it could be there. It hid in patterns, in symbols, in rings and labyrinths. It lived in tales and was passed from mouth to mouth, like the breath of memory itself. In Greek, the word dragon comes from to gaze, to look intently. And indeed, the dragon is the one who sees. It looks into us, into the very depths, where fear connects with awe. Its gaze is a test. Its breath is a fire of purification, or a mist of sleep. And therefore, the dragon becomes not just a monster, but a threshold, beyond which lies a mystery, beyond which the journey begins. Today, we will embark on a journey, smooth, slow. We will not fight dragons. We will listen to them. Listen to how the wind whispers about them on the ruins of Babylon, how they stir in the sands of Egypt, how they rise above the temples of India and dance over the waters of China, how they hide in the mountains of Japan and sit under the roots of the northern tree. We will hear how they come alive in the legends left by the Aztecs and Mayans, and how their image pierces both Christian tales and folk beliefs. This will not be a story of battle. This will be a story of breath, of movement, of an ancient presence. We will not rush. We will float like a serpent through the grass of time, slowly, unhurriedly, through dreams and silence. Close your eyes. Listen closely. Somewhere nearby, in the deepest depths, the serpent has already begun its journey. When the stars were still young and the earth had no form, there were no mountains, no rivers, no time. There was only boundless, silent chaos. So begins the myth that came to us from the valley between two great rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. It was there, in the land of the Sumerians, Akkadians, and Babylonians, that the serpent first became the primeval mother of all existence. Tiamat, a name that sounds like the breath of wind over a dead sea. Her image, the primordial ocean from which both gods and the world emerged. She was not just a monster. She was the element itself, the water that preceded life. Her body carried an inherent power, formless and yet full of potential. Myth has it that in the beginning there were only two beings, Apsu, the fresh water, and Tiamat, the salt water. Together they gave rise to everything. Their children, the young gods, became too noisy, and Apsu wanted to destroy them. But before he could do so, he was killed. And then Tiamat awoke. Her wrath was all-consuming. She rose to destroy those she herself had spawned. But Tiamat was not alone. From herself, she created an army of monsters, 11 forms of fear, dragons, serpents, monsters with claws and scales, with flaming eyes and mouths spewing venom. She stood at their head, herself in the form of a huge winged serpent, and led her children into battle. She became a symbol of chaos, but not of evil, for in her was that which existed before morality, before oppositions. She was pure power, balanced and terrible. The gods were afraid. Many refused to stand against Tiamat. Only Marduk, a young and not yet renowned god, agreed to challenge her. In return, he demanded supreme power. And when the other gods agreed, Marduk entered the fray. He armed himself with a net, wind, and a bow. He called upon all the elements for help and went to meet the primeval mother. The battle was long, the heavens trembled, but Marduk prevailed. He caught Tiamat in a net, opened her mouth, and thrust an arrow into her, piercing her heart. He cut her body in two. From one part he created the sky, from the other the earth. Her tears became rivers, her breath clouds. From her entrails the world was born. Such is the Babylonian myth of creation. The world arose not from nothing, but from the body of a serpent god, from the dust of the defeated, from the flesh of chaos. And even the victory over the serpent was not destruction, but transformation. She did not disappear, she became everything. We live within Tiamat. This myth is not just an ancient fairy tale. It tells us how man viewed nature, not as an enemy, but as a force to be ordered, not to destroy, but to give it form. There is no evil in Tiamat. In her, there is depth. She is the mother who became the ocean. And that is why the serpent in this myth is a dual creature. It destroys, but it also gives birth. It brings chaos, but from it arises cosmos, an ordered world. We cannot understand the serpent without accepting that it is always in between water and land, between mother and enemy, between abyss and horizon. Tiamat is one of the most ancient serpent goddesses in human history. Her name is forgotten, but her image lives on in other cultures, in sea monsters, in storm dragons, in stories of gods battling the sea. In every thunderclap there is her voice, in every storm her breath. She has not disappeared. She is the essence. The eyes of antiquity slowly close. In the sands of Sumer, the footsteps of priests are no longer heard. But if you listen closely, her name begins to resound again between the lines, between the stones and the shadows. Tiamat, the great serpent, the great mother, the beginning of all beginnings. Night descends upon the earth, and against its backdrop flourishes one of the most ancient symbols, the endless serpent, winding in the shadows of the underworld, majestic, terrible, persistent. Its name is Apep, or Apophis, the serpent god of ancient Egypt. It belongs neither to the day nor to the world of the living. It eternally glides in the underground waters of Duat, the realm of the dead, where every night a drama unfolds, repeating itself again and again. The sun in Egyptian mythology is the god Ra, sailing across the sky in his solar bark. During the day, he illuminates the world of the living, but when night falls, he descends beneath the earth to cross the dark Duat. There he is, ambushed by Apep, the great serpent of chaos, thousands of miles long, whose body coils like a river, entwining the darkness. His task is to stop Ra, to swallow the bark, to destroy order, and to prevent the sun from rising again. Apep is not a god in the usual sense. He has no temple, no priests, no images intended for worship. He is not asked for mercy. He is the embodiment of chaos, darkness, and that which should never come to light. And yet, without him, the history of the Egyptian cosmos is impossible. He is an integral part of the cycle. He is a test for light. Every night, Ra and his companions, other deities, spirits, guardians, armed with spears and spells, enter into battle with Apep. This battle never ceases. Apep attacks from ambush every time, trying to capsize the bark, swallow the sun, and return the world to primeval chaos. But Ra is the victor. He pierces the serpent with his spear, passes through its body, and breaks its coils. And at dawn, the solar disk reappears on the horizon, illuminating the earth and conquering darkness. But Apep does not die. He is immortal. He cannot be completely destroyed because he is not just a being, he is a principle. He is a symbol of what will always exist alongside order, darkness, doubt, fear, destruction. Without him, there would be no victory, no hope, no meaning in the sun's movement. He is like the night that must come to give meaning to light. The ancient Egyptians knew the struggle with Apep takes place not only in Duat, it also occurs in the human soul. Each of us carries this chaos within, the very chaos that rises from the depths when the sun sets. Each of us must pass through the underground river, fight our serpents, pass by temptations, shadows, doubts, and if Ra within us triumphs, dawn will come. If not, we will remain in darkness. In the funerary texts carved on the walls of tombs, there are spells against Apep. In the Book of Amduat and the Book of Gates, descriptions of his bodily form and rituals of defeat. Sometimes he is cut up, burned, blinded. These are not physical actions. These are acts of magic aimed at protecting the order of the world. And every pharaoh, embarking on the afterlife journey, knew he would have to pass by Apep. not to avoid, but to overcome. Sometimes Apep is depicted with a human face distorted by malice, sometimes as a gigantic serpent with eyes full of rage, but most often he is simply a shadow, long, winding, inaudible. He does not scream, he waits. In this lies his strength. He comes when the light is tired, and that is why Ra cannot stop. He must move. He must sail, always. There is something almost hypnotic about Apep. His image is like night itself. He frightens, but also soothes. His black body is like the surface of a river on a moonless night. His breath is like the wind in the desert, and when you lie with your eyes closed and listen to the rustle of time, perhaps it is him you hear in the distance, warm, ancient, silent. And yet, despite all his darkness, every morning light returns. Ra triumphs always, even if only for a short time, even if unreliably. But the sun rises, and as long as it rises, there is hope. Thus, the Egyptians looked into the face of their darkness without fear, with understanding, with faith that chaos is not an enemy, but a test. And the great serpent Apep is not the end, but part of the eternal path, the darkness we must pass through to meet the dawn, where mists dissipate over green rivers, where jungles whisper ancient words, and temples hide among the foliage, live serpents and gods. Indian mythology is full of images in which the serpent is not just a creature, but an energy, a force, a form of the universe itself. Here, it is not only temptation or enemy, but also protector and sage, and even the foundation of the cosmos. One of the most ancient myths of India is the story of the battle between the god Indra and the demon serpent named Vritra. This myth, recorded in the ancient Rig Veda, speaks of a time when the waters were locked away, when rivers did not flow, when drought engulfed the world. Vritra, a serpent covering the sky like a scaly cloud, blocked the rivers and prevented rain from falling on the earth. The world was suffocating. And then Indra, god of thunder and lightning, gathered his strength. He armed himself with his mighty weapon, the Vajra, a lightning bolt, and challenged Vritra to battle. Thunder rolled across the heavens, lightning ripped through the darkness, and the battle began. Indra cut open the serpent, and the waters held in its belly gushed over the earth, nourishing it and bringing life back. The battle was not just a victory, but also a liberation. Indra did not just defeat a monster. He opened the way, allowing movement to fill the world again. This myth lives in every drop of rain, in every clap of thunder. It reminds us that movement is life, that stagnation is death, and that the serpent can be both an obstacle and a source. Vritra was defeated, but from his body arose rivers, from his death, birth. But in Indian tradition, the serpent is not only a demon. There are Nagas, divine serpent-like beings, guardians of underground waters, ancient knowledge, and treasures. Nagas live in underground palaces, glittering with jewels, at the roots of the world tree. They are wise, patient, and just, but can be formidable and vengeful if disturbed. A Naga can be a god or goddess with a human face and a serpentine body, shining like the moon. They guard water, rivers, springs, lakes, They are revered as patrons of fertility. Prayers are offered to them. Dances are dedicated to them. Sometimes they take the form of simple snakes, hiding among stones, but their gaze remains deep and ancient. One of the most powerful Nagas is Vasuki. His name is associated with another important story, the churning of the milk ocean. In this great cosmological parable, gods and demons decided to obtain Amrita, the nectar of immortality. To obtain it, they used Mount Mandara as a churning rod and wrapped the serpent Vasuki around it like a rope. Grasping him from both sides, they began to rotate the mountain, churning the ocean of the universe. Thus, worlds, gods, poison, and immortality were born. Here, the serpent is a link between opposing forces. It is the instrument without which the cosmic act of creation is impossible. Vasuki suffers, his body is worn away, venom erupts from his mouth. But it is precisely this that allows the nectar to be born. The serpent becomes the axis around which being itself revolves. In yet another image, the serpent of time, Ananta, or Shesha, the great serpent on whose coils the god Vishnu rests. He is infinite, like the universe itself. His coils are the cycles of time, birth, death, rebirth. When the world ends, Vishnu goes into a sleep, lying on Ananta's body above the boundless cosmic ocean. And in this silence, in this breath of the serpent, a new beginning ripens. Ananta means endless. He is eternity itself. There is no hurry in his movement. He does not crawl. He flows like thought, like the space between stars. His coils gently embrace the world, not compressing it, but holding it in balance. He does not destroy. He sustains. He does not frighten. He lulls. In all these myths, the serpent is not an enemy. It is a necessary element. It is part of the great balance, the one who connects heaven and earth, water and fire, fear and reverence. In India, serpents are considered sacred. They are not killed. They are worshipped. They are drawn on walls, carved in temples, woven into dances. The serpent here is not only a memory of battle, but also an image of peace. Its coils are like a mantra, repeated again and again. Its gaze is like wisdom that comes in a dream. It does not disappear. It returns, always. When eyes close, when everything around falls silent, the serpent of time lies beside you. And you are no longer afraid, because you know it is not an enemy. It is a guardian. Guardian of the path you walk in dreams. When light mist drifts over the mountains and clouds swirl over the water, an ancient creature is hidden in this breath of the world. It is not fiery, not fierce, not destructive. It carries no evil, demands no submission, seeks no battle. This is the Chinese dragon, and it is completely unlike its Western counterparts. It is not a monster. It is a spirit. The dragon in China is a symbol of life, strength, harmony, and blessing. The Chinese dragon, or long, is a celestial creature. Its body is long like a serpent, covered in scales like a carp. It has eagle claws, deer antlers, tiger whiskers, and demon eyes. It is not a beast of one world. It combines heaven and earth, water and wind, the breath of the forest, and the rumble of thunder. It cannot be caught. It cannot be tamed. It appears in the sky before rain, glides between mountains, rises with the clouds, and disappears, leaving a damp trail in the silence. Dragons in Chinese culture do not bring destruction. They control the weather, rivers, tides, rain, and wind. Harvest depends on their mood. Life on earth depends on their movement. Therefore, for thousands of years, the Chinese have revered them as blessed beings. Their images can be found everywhere, on temple walls, on emperors' robes, on house roofs, in porcelain ornaments. Where there is a dragon, there is protection, wisdom, and patronage. There are 9 main types of Chinese dragons. Each has its purpose, its characteristics, its power. One is the guardian of the heavens, another the patron of rivers, a third the protector of palaces, a fourth the warrior of storms, a fifth the ascending spirit of the mountains. Each has its own name, its own legend, but all of them are united by one feature, a connection with the great order, with the Tao, with what lies beyond the visible. One of the most revered dragons is Qinglong, the azure dragon of the east, guardian of spring, the wood element, and the dawn wind. He is one of the 4 celestial guardians protecting the cardinal directions. He is often depicted on temple gates as the patron of vital energy and awakening. When Qinglong appears in the sky, it is a sign of change, a sign of the coming of a new time. In Chinese mythology, dragons live in water, in seas, lakes, rivers, underground springs. Every body of water has its dragon guardian, and when drought or flood begins, people turn to them with prayers, dances, and offerings. Especially important were the dragon kings, rulers of the seas, each of whom ruled his own part of the water. Offerings were made to them. Temples were built for them. One of them, the dragon of the East Sea, was the father of a daughter who married the emperor, emphasizing the divinity of imperial power. The emperor of China was called the Son of Heaven, and was himself considered an embodiment of the dragon. His throne was called the Dragon Throne, his robe, dragon robes, his face, dragon face. Only the emperor had the right to wear the image of a 5-clawed dragon. Others only with 4 or 3. This image emphasized the connection of power with heaven, with ritual, with order emanating from the Tao. But the dragon is not only a symbol of power, it is a symbol of inner strength, meditative power. In Taoist tradition, it is often associated with the movement of energy within the body, qi. In the practice of qigong or tai chi, the dragon symbolizes fluidity, spiral movement, the breath of the world flowing through man. To be like a dragon means to be flexible, strong, calm, in balance. The dragon does not attack. It does not seek battle. It coils around a mountain without breaking it. It swims through clouds without leaving a trace. It disappears in an instant, taking rain or a rainbow with it. It can only be felt on the tip of the wind, in the breath of mist, in a slight ripple on the water. A special place in the veneration of the dragon is occupied by the Dragon Boat Festival, Duanwu. This festival takes place in summer, and during it, races are held on long boats decorated with dragon heads. The beating of drums, the splashing of oars, the shouts of rowers, all this is not just a competition, but a ritual. It is intended to honor the spirits of water, appease the dragons, and maintain balance between people and the elements. In Chinese tradition, there is no fear of the dragon. There is respect. There is a striving for harmony. When a person dreams of a dragon, it is considered a good omen. It is a harbinger of strength, luck, a high destiny. The dragon is not an enemy. It is a mentor. It shows the way, but never imposes. It gives a test, but does not destroy. Its wisdom is in silence. Its strength is in flow. And so, when you close your eyes and hear the wind rustling, the water dripping, the light mist touching your skin, perhaps a dragon is flying nearby, silent, twisting, ancient. It looks at you. It does not frighten. It does not demand. It only watches, and perhaps invites you not to conquer, not to prove, but simply to be part of the great breath, part of heaven and water, part of the endless movement of the Tao. The Chinese dragon does not live in fire. It lives in breath, in the movement of clouds, in the lightness of water, in the bends of rivers. It does not need to be conquered. It needs to be felt. And if you feel it, it will never disappear. It will live in you, in your breath, in your dreams, in your silence, when dawn has not yet touched the tops of the cedars and the lakes breathe with thin mist. A spirit lives in this silence. It does not rise with a roar. It does not flash with lightning. It glides imperceptibly, softly, like the rustle of leaves or the sigh of ancient water. This is the Japanese dragon, Ryu, and it, like Japan itself, is quiet, refined, filled with a deep power hidden in harmony. Unlike European monsters or even Chinese celestial lords, the Japanese Ryu is a creature of water. It dwells in seas, rivers, lakes, in misty depths. Its body is elongated, serpentine. Its scales shimmer like moonlight on ripples. It has horns, whiskers, claws, and yet it does not resemble a beast. It is closer to a spirit, to a living manifestation of nature. It is something more than form. It is movement. It is the meaning of water. The word Ryu means dragon, but can also mean flow, current, rhythm, and this accurately conveys the essence of the Japanese view. The dragon is not a threat, not a thirst for victory, but part of nature's breath. It is associated with rain, with harvest, with life energy. It is called upon in drought. It is prayed to at springs. It is respected in legends and traditions. In ancient Japanese myths and folk stories, Ryu often acts as a guardian, sometimes strict, sometimes mysterious, but almost always just. It can live in a waterfall as a spirit guarding it. It can guard a temple hidden in the mountains, where light never spreads. It can appear to a person in a dream, not with words, but with a feeling, a gaze, a meaning. In the legend of Princess Toyao, the daughter of the sea dragon comes ashore and falls in love with a mortal. She transforms into a woman and lives with him, but when her secret is revealed, she disappears into the sea, leaving behind only salt on her skin and sadness in the sand. This story is like water itself, beautiful, quiet, elusive. It is not about victory or defeat. It is about the connection between worlds, about an impossible love between land and depth.
Another story tells of a temple where a monk prayed by a pond every evening.
One day, a dragon rose from the water and said, "You saw me because you did not want to see me. You heard me because you were silent." From then on, the monk understood that true power is not in loudness, but in silence, not in the desire to control, but in the ability to let go. Ryu is often depicted in prints and fabrics. Its image is woven into kabuki theater and Shinto rituals. It can be the guardian of a mountain lake, the embodiment of a fallen warrior, or the father of rain. It appears in legends as a guardian, a test, an ally. It does not invade, it emerges. Dragons hold a special place in the Buddhist tradition of Japan. There they guard relics, texts, truths. They are the temple gatekeepers, but not those who ward off. Rather, those who check if you are ready to enter. Their eyes do not rage, but penetrate deeply. Their breath is like wind among bamboo. Their language is silence. Among the clouds on temple ceilings, one can find Ryu, inscribed within a circle. Its body bends like a wave, and its mouth is open as if speaking eternity. It is always within the circle, within the path, within the world, and its form is not the form of fear. It is the form of peace. When you walk a path in the mountains of Japan, where silence is denser than the wind, where moss hides stones and water flows down the slopes, listen closely. There, in the breath of the forest, a dragon's tail may stir, not to frighten, but to say, "I am here, I am guarding, I remember." Ryu is a myth that does not cry out. It lives as long as we are silent. It exists as long as we trust. It does not demand faith. It demands presence. To be near, to be attentive, to be soft like water and strong like a wave. It does not demand that you win. It offers to walk beside you. And if you see it in a dream, do not be afraid. It brings no misfortune. It has come to remind you, everything passes. Water flows. The heart knows. And the breath of the mountains is the breath of Ryu. In the far north, where ice creaks under the wind, where trees stretch towards a gray sky and silence seems carved from stone, other myths mature. Here, the serpent is not a gentle spirit of rain, not a celestial guide. Here, the serpent is an ancient force that gnaws at the very foundation of the world. Scandinavian legends are not afraid to show darkness. And so, in their serpents, there sounds not rage, but truth, heavy, deep, inevitable. At the very center of these northern myths stands Jörmungandr, or the world serpent, child of Loki and the giantess Angerboda. When the gods saw him, they were frightened. He grew at an alarming rate, was huge, rebellious, dangerous. Then Odin, the supreme god, threw him into the ocean that surrounded Midgard, the land of men. But Jörmungandr did not drown. He grew, and grew so large that he encircled the entire earth and bit his own tail. Thus, he became a symbol of the completed circle. He became the one who holds the world, a serpent that simultaneously restrains and threatens. He is the ring compressed around life. He does not speak, he is silent. But his silence is tense, full of anticipation. The Scandinavians knew Jörmungandr would not remain inactive forever. The day would come, the day of Ragnarok, when he would rise. Then he would release his tail. His body would straighten. He would rise from the ocean and unleash waves, poison, and destruction upon the world. His breath would poison the sky. He would fight Thor, the god of thunder and lightning, and they would kill each other. Thus, the world would end. Thus, a new cycle would begin. Jormungandr is not evil. It is a cycle. It is the inevitability of completion. It is a reminder that everything that began must end. He does not seek revenge. He fulfills. He waits for his hour. His scales are like the night sea, his eyes like the icy sky. He sleeps, and the world exists. He will awaken, and the world will disappear. And yet, this is not the end. It is purification. There is another serpent, another destroyer, Nidhöggr. He lives at the roots of the world tree, Yggdrasil. This ash tree connects 9 worlds, from Asgard of the gods to Helheim of the dead. Its roots go into the darkness, into the earth, into the water. And there, below, a serpent-like dragon gnaws at them. He sharpens his teeth on the tree's flesh, slowly, stubbornly, eternally. Nidhöggr is in no hurry. He knows that time is on his side. He is a symbol of decay, disintegration, of what undermines even the eternal. He is not furious, not loud. He is whispering. He is the worm at the foundation. And yet, he cannot be called pure evil. He is simply a necessity. Without decay, there will be no growth. Without death, no life. Between Nidhöggr and the eagle sitting at the top of Yggdrasil, a squirrel named Ratatoskr constantly runs. It carries insults, amplifies enmity, accelerates conflict. This is a metaphor for how often a mediator does not settle, but aggravates. But the myth itself says something else. Even the greatest tree in the world is not safe. Even it rots from within, and yet it stands. For now, Scandinavian myths do not soothe. They do not comfort. They remind. They say, everything passes. Everything collapses. Everything is doomed. But in this lies strength, because if you know the end, you also know the price of the beginning. If you see the serpent at the roots, you appreciate the leaves in the wind. If you hear Jormungandr's breath, you learn to breathe deeper. Sometimes the serpent appears in human guises. Sometimes it is a skin. Sometimes a symbol on a shield. Sometimes a necklace that holds death. Its images are scattered throughout the Scandinavian world, from carved stones to poetic Eddas, and each carries the weight of time, the weight of what was foretold. When you stand on the edge of the northern shore and hear the wind driving the waves, know, somewhere below, in the depths, Jormungandr breathes. He does not move. He waits, but he feels. And when everything is ready, he will rise, to end, to begin anew. And this is not fear. This is a circle. This is a serpent biting its own tail. This is death from which a new morning is born. This is night, which is always followed by dawn. This is darkness, bearing knowledge. Such are the Scandinavian serpents, not enemies, not friends, forces, reminders, facets of what lies beneath the earth and within us. In the forests of Europe, under the vaults of Gothic cathedrals, and amidst the ruins of ancient castles, a different image of the dragon matures. It is monstrous, scaly, winged. It roars, breathes fire, guards gold, and abducts maidens. In Christian and medieval European tradition, the dragon is not merely a monster. It is an allegory. It is a test. It is a symbol of the evil with which man must fight and overcome. The image of the dragon here is rooted in a much older source, the Bible. It is in the book of Genesis that we first encounter the serpent as a tempter. It does not breathe fire. It whispers. It seduces. It instills doubt. It is through it that Eve and Adam first tasted knowledge, first disobeyed, first became mortal. This serpent became the first enemy, the first rift between man and the divine. Later, in the Apocalypse, the image of the serpent reappears, this time as the great dragon, the ancient serpent, called the devil. He is cast down from heaven by the archangel Michael, vanquished, overthrown. Thus, Christianity definitively links the serpent with the fall, with pride, with evil. Since then, the dragon has become the enemy by default. Its role is to be defeated. Its existence is to be a test. But despite this clear symbolism, in the legends of Europe, the dragon is not merely evil. It is more complex. It is powerful, mysterious, alluring. It is feared, but also admired. It guards ancient secrets, buried treasures, entrances to other worlds. Often it lives in caves, symbols of the subconscious, of depths, of the unknown. It is not only a threat, it is a guardian. One of the most famous stories is the legend of St. George. In a town suffering from a dragon, the inhabitants offered it sacrifices so that it would not destroy the settlement. Finally, the king's daughter was designated as a sacrifice. When she went out to the dragon, George appeared, a knight with a spear, a warrior of light. He struck the serpent, freed the maiden and the town. This story is repeated in countless images, icons, bas-reliefs. George is a symbol of virtue, victory over fear, over darkness. But even in this story, the dragon is not just a monster. It is what demands action. Without it, there would be no feat. It does not disappear from mythology. It becomes a necessary element. Just as in the human psyche, the shadow is not an enemy, but part of the path. The serpent is an internal barrier, an internal force that needs to be transformed, not killed. In other legends, dragons guard bridges, mountains, wells. In Beowulf, the hero fights a dragon, and both die. Victory comes at the cost of life. The dragon does not leave without a trace. It demands sacrifice. In the Scandinavian sagas, there is also the figure of the dragon Fafnir, once a man who became a serpent due to greed and the desire to guard gold. He was not born of evil. He became a serpent because he held on to treasure for too long. This is also an important idea. The dragon is not always external. It can be what we become if we allow fear, greed, pride to take over. It is not a punishment. It is a reflection. In Christian symbolism, Archangel Michael also strikes the dragon, but he does so with solemnity, with celestial will, as if the serpent were not just an opponent, but an integral part of the great drama of salvation. And in this lies the paradox. By defeating the dragon, the hero does not destroy evil, he fulfills his duty. He completes the cycle. But every dragon is followed by another, because the path is eternal. The images of dragons in Europe merge with elements of folklore. They become characters in fairy tales, living in caves and breathing fire. They abduct princesses and demand ransom. But even in these simplified stories, the main essence remains. The dragon is something that must be overcome. It is not an enemy to hate, it is an enemy to understand, to overcome. In heraldry, dragons are signs of strength, power, nobility. On knights' shields, on flags, on seals, their images are seen everywhere. They adorn castles, although they symbolize danger, because man knows the dragon is something worth preserving. It is a reminder of the price of victory. When you walk through the narrow streets of an old town, hear the bell and feel the cold air of an ancient cathedral. Somewhere there, among the stones and bas-reliefs, a dragon lurks. It does not roar. It watches. It waits for you to admit it is in you, in your doubts, in your passions, in your shadow. And when you close your eyes, it will not attack. It will appear to walk the path with you, the hero's path, a path where every enemy is a reflection, every battle a purification, and every dragon the gatekeeper of the new. Among the misty valleys of Ireland and Scotland, in dense forests and on mossy hills, along the banks of rivers hidden beneath layers of centuries, lived other serpents. They were not drawn with wings. They did not always breathe fire. But they were part of the world, part of the ancient breath by which the people lived. In Celtic and Slavic myths, the serpent is not only a monster, but also a spirit, a test, and a guardian of the boundary between worlds. Among the Celts, the image of the serpent is associated with the earth itself. In some traditions, the serpent is the embodiment of natural forces, a symbol of fertility, underground rivers, and energy flowing through stones and roots. Its curves are like streams of water, like lines on the palm of the earth. Some druids, priests of the ancient Celtic tradition, wore serpentine symbolism as a sign of knowledge. For the serpent is not just a threat, it is wisdom. It is the memory of the earth. According to tradition, St. Patrick banished all serpents from Ireland. But this is not a literal story. The serpent here is a symbol of pagan spirits, forces of the old world that a new order came to replace. Nevertheless, the serpent remained in legends, in stone ornaments, in the patterns of Celtic crosses, in the curls that repeat like a breath. It could not be banished, because it is not external. It is part of the deep. In Slavic tradition, the serpent holds a special place. Here, it most often appears as Zmej Gorenik, a multi-headed dragon living in mountains or caves, guarding treasure or abducting brides. Its head spew flame, it flies and unleashes destruction on villages. But most importantly, it is always defeated. A hero with a sword, a bogatyr, a son of the earth, fights it, cuts off its heads, saves, and restores order. However, even in these tales, the serpent is not just an enemy. It is a test. It guards the border. It stands between the hero and the future. It does not attack first, it tests. And the hero does not defeat it without effort. He must grow, must be worthy. In more archaic Slavic beliefs, the serpent is not only a monster. There are serpent gods, spirits living in rivers, swamps, at crossroads. There is V, with eyes that see death. There is Veles, the god of the underworld, often taking the form of a serpent. Veles is not an enemy to Perun, the god of thunder, but his eternal rival. One controls the sky, the other, the earth, livestock, magic, water. Their struggle is not destruction, but balance. The Slavs believed if a serpent crawls into a house, it's a sign. If it's by a well, it must be respected. It is not always killed, it is appeased. Milk is left for it. Because the serpent is part of the world, killing it unnecessarily, you disrupt order, and that will have repercussions. In many incantations that have come down to us, the serpent acts as a force that needs to be directed, not destroyed, but subdued, transformed. Magic is the art of talking to a serpent, not fighting it. It is the ability to look it in the eye and not look away. It is interesting that in both Celtic and Slavic fairy tales, the serpent often guards not only treasure, but also knowledge. It is at the entrance to a cave where wisdom is hidden. It is at the foot of a tree where apples of immortality grow. It does not allow one to simply pass, but if you are worthy, it retreats or transforms into an ally. The image of the serpent and dragon in these cultures is connected with nature, with unpredictability, with the boundary. It is a guardian between worlds, between the dead and the living, between fairy tale and reality, between childhood and adulthood. It appears when a step needs to be taken forward, into the new, into the unknown. And therefore, the serpent here is not man's enemy, but his test, his mirror, his ancient form of fear transformed into movement. By defeating the serpent, the hero changes. But perhaps he does not kill it completely. Perhaps the serpent remains within as a voice, as a reminder. When you stand at the edge of the forest, where the path disappears into the thicket and the silence becomes dense, you feel something is watching, not with rage, not with thirst, but with interest, with a question. Are you ready? Do you hear? Do you know where you're going? And then, among the ferns, between the roots and shadows, a coil may stir, a curve may appear, a green eye may flash. This is not a threat. This is an invitation to what you are ready to become a hero, and to go where you have never been before. The serpent is a guardian, but if you are ready, it will let you pass, because the serpent is not an enemy. It is a threshold. Above the jungles of Central America, where lianas intertwine into green tunnels, where the sun falls through the foliage like light from another world, lived gods whose appearance was strange and beautiful. Among them, one was special. He was not a man. He was not a beast. He was a serpent, but not an ordinary one. He was a feathered serpent, a serpent that flies. His name was Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. This name sounds like the rustle of wings, like a colorful splash of wind, like a song of light. For the peoples of Mesoamerica, especially the Toltecs and Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl was not a monster, but a creator. He did not destroy, he built. He did not kill, he taught. He was a deity who united heaven and earth, bird and serpent, spirit and flesh. According to myths, Quetzalcoatl participated in the creation of the world. He traveled to the underworld of Mictlan and brought back the bones of previous generations of people. He mixed them with blood and created new humanity. He brought maize, the sacred grain. He taught people crafts, writing, astronomy. He was called the god of the morning star, the light that appears after darkness. The image of the feathered serpent holds a special meaning. The serpent, a creature of the earth, crawling, connected with underground forces. Feathers, a symbol of the sky, wind, lightness. Quetzalcoatl unites them. He combines opposites. He is a bridge between worlds. He is the path itself. But Quetzalcoatl was not alone. In the mythology of the Maya, Toltecs, and Aztecs, there are many serpent-like deities. The Maya had Kukulkan, almost the same image as Quetzalcoatl, but with a local name. His pyramids were built with amazing precision. On the equinoxes, the shadow of a serpentine body slides down the steps, creating a living movement of light. This is not just architecture. This is magic. This is the breath of the serpent, inscribed in stone. There are other serpents too, water serpents that inhabit caves, rain serpents that bring storms, serpents that guard the boundary between worlds. A shaman entering a trance often sees a serpent. It guides him through layers of reality, like a conductor. Its body is like a path along which one can pass to spirits, to memory, to the source. In the myths of the Hopi people living in the southwestern United States, there are also serpents. They are associated with the underworld, with life after death, with storing water in the desert. During snake dances, shamans carried live snakes, prayed to rain spirits, invoked ancient energy. This is not fear. This is respect. This is coexistence with nature. The feathered serpent is not only a symbol of knowledge, it is a symbol of responsibility. One legend says that Quetzalcoatl once sinned. He indulged in wine, plunged into shame, and left this world, promising to return. His departure became a symbol of the end of an era. His expectation, a symbol of hope. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the lands of the Aztecs, many mistook them for the return of the feathered serpent. This was a tragedy in which ancient myth met a new reality, unprepared to understand. The serpent they awaited turned out to be something else, but the essence of the legend remained. There is one who will one day return, not to take revenge, but to restore. The spirit of the serpent in American cultures is always something dual. It can be a guardian and a destroyer. It can be a god and a monster. But in it is always hidden a connection to other worlds, of dreams, death, spirit. It lives in caves, in lakes, in the shadow of mountains, in the sunset clouds. If you stand at the foot of the pyramid at Chichen Itza on the day of the equinox and watch the shadow crawl down the steps, you will see the serpent, not alive, but present, precisely measured, returning. It is a reminder that everything repeats, that the path is open. And if you close your eyes and imagine a serpent, with a body twisting but covered with feathers, not scales, it will not be fear. It will be flight, slow, solemn, eternal. It will be Quetzalcoatl, the God who gives, who creates, who leaves, and always returns. From time immemorial, When man first began to tell stories around the campfire, she appeared, the serpent guarding a treasure, not always gold, sometimes a word, sometimes a secret, sometimes a passage. Her coils were gates, her gaze a question, and if you wanted to pass, you had to answer. In many cultures, the serpent is not just a creature, but a guardian. She does not seek battle. She waits. She lies at the entrance to a cave, at the foot of a mountain, at a secret door. She does not move until you approach, and then, perhaps, she will speak. Or perhaps she will simply look, and you will understand. You can pass. But only if you are ready. The treasure that the serpent guards is rarely just gold. It is memory. It is knowledge. It is a deep power that can destroy or heal. That's why a guardian is needed. That's why the serpent lies in its place, not leaving it for centuries. She is not an obstacle. She is a filter. She will only let pass those who are worthy. In ancient fairy tales and legends around the world, from Siberia to the Balkans, from India to the Middle East, there are images of a serpent sleeping on a chest, coiling around a tomb, sitting on a rock. Sometimes it demands courage from the hero, sometimes wisdom, but always an inner key. You cannot simply take the treasure, you must change. In alchemy, the serpent often appears as a symbol of secret knowledge. The Ouroboros, the serpent biting its own tail, is not only an image of eternity, but also a gate. It encompasses what is hidden. It embraces the inner light, hidden from the unprepared gaze. It is the door itself. In some traditions, it is said, to find the way to the underworld, one must follow the serpent. She is the first to find passages, knows the ways, can lead through labyrinths. Therefore, she is a guide, a transition. She does not take your hand. She simply goes. And if you can, you follow her. If you cannot, you remain. Sometimes in fairy tales, the hero defeats the serpent. But what does this mean? Not destruction, but overcoming, recognizing its power, its right to be, its role, and only then does he receive the treasure, because he is already worthy. Sometimes the serpent disappears. It opens the way and disappears, or transforms into a woman, or into stone, or simply leaves you at the threshold, and you understand. You have already crossed. The serpent is not a goal, and not an enemy. She is the guardian of the threshold between the known world and the unknown, between the surface and the depth, between life as it was and what it will become. And if you once see her in a dream, coiled, motionless, observing, do not be afraid. It means you are close, you are near the gates, and everything depends on you. When we fall asleep, the world loses its form. Spaces bend, time disappears, sounds become tenuous. And in this depth, where reason withdraws, a serpent often appears. In its twisting body, in its silent gaze, in its coils encompassing emptiness. Why? Why does the serpent so often appear in dreams? Since ancient times, man has seen in it an image of change. It sheds its skin, leaving the old to become new. It glides between worlds, making no sound. It appears suddenly, not as a guest, but as part of the space itself. In dreams, it can be frightening. But this is not always fear. It is a premonition of transition. In many cultures, dreams with serpents were interpreted as signs. For some, it was a warning. For others, a sign of healing. For still others, a call to inner awakening. It all depends on who is seeing. It all depends on what question you fall asleep with. Jung, the great explorer of symbols and dreams, wrote that the serpent is an archetype. That is, a form living in the depths of each of us. It is older than words. It is part of the unconscious. And when it comes in a dream, it does not speak with a voice. It speaks with movement, with presence. Sometimes it attacks. Then, perhaps, you're fighting something within. Sometimes it lies peacefully. Then, perhaps, you're close to acceptance. Sometimes it leads you. Then, perhaps, it is time to go deeper. In the symbolism of different peoples, the serpent represents knowledge, sexuality, cycle, eternity, death, and rebirth. It is both up and down, and therefore, when it appears in a dream, it is never accidental. It always carries duality within itself. It always asks a question. The serpent symbol is found in rings, spirals, labyrinths. It appears in mandalas, carvings, runes. It hides in ornaments, in objects of power. And each time it says one thing, everything moves, everything changes, everything returns. If you see a serpent coiled in a ring, it may be a sign of a completed stage. If it straightens, perhaps something new is already beginning. If it bites its tail, you are standing on the edge of eternity. And this is not frightening. It is quiet. It is deep. The world of dreams is a world of symbols. And the serpent is one of the oldest. It is not an enemy. It is the voice of the depths. It comes not to destroy. It comes to remind. And if you see it, soft, dark, shining, or invisible, do not turn away. Just look. Just breathe. Just listen. Because perhaps it is not a serpent. It is yourself, speaking to yourself in a form that you can understand. You have come a long way, through water and fire, through clouds and stone, through temples, jungles, plains, and underground rivers. You have heard the voice of the serpent, sometimes whispering, sometimes roaring, sometimes singing in the silence, and now silence, complete, deep, like a breath before the first words. You know now that the serpent is not an enemy, nor a friend. It is an ancient beast living in the roots of the world, in you, in legends older than cities, in sands that were once sea. It is the beginning and the return. Serpents come in different forms, winged, feathered, multi-headed. Those that swim in the sky and those that glide in the water. But in every one of its guises, it is the same. A path, movement, presence, without words, without promises, only a gaze, only a coil. The world that man built loves straight lines, walls, stairs. But the serpent always twists, because truth is not in the straight, but in the flexible, not in the hard, but in the living. It reminds, life is a turn. It is a bend. It is shed skin, left on the threshold of something new. And if one day you hear a breath in the darkness, do not rush to close yourself off.
It is not evil. It is not a threat. It is a call, an invitation, a reminder that everything returns, that everything passes, that everything begins anew. The dragon does not demand victory. It demands presence. It does not carry answers. It is the question itself. And if you look into its eyes, you are already on the path. You are already inside the myth. Now you can lie peacefully. The serpent has coiled beside you. It is not sleeping. It is waiting, as always, as eternally.